Off and on the clock, we are back in our battle stations after the Dawg Bowl festivities. And today we'll give you a little bit of a recap, what went down in San Diego behind the scenes. We're also going to talk about this flurry of free agency action, which of these moves matter to us in our big board in pre-draft contests. And yeah, all of that good stuff here today with John, Nez, and Pete on Off and on the Clock. And most importantly, Nez, you are no longer in the cuck chair. You are now in the equal boxes here.
I was gonna. So Numi posted that picture of you and John, very HD. I didn't get a chance to do it. I was gonna Photoshop myself in the corner, in the right-hand corner of that picture. Maybe I'll still do it. It's a little sneak peek for you guys watching here of a future bit I'm about to release.
Yeah, if you guys don't know what Nez is referencing, so we did our show live from San Diego on Friday, but of course we had to have Nez on there, and so it was John and I, like the full shot, and we were actually messing with the crop, trying to get Nez in there, and we settled on this little circle that then ended up getting dubbed the cuck chair. But the jokes were worth it, Nez. I wanted to have you on that show.
That was very thoughtful. I appreciate you guys trying to make it work, and I thought it was executed pretty well, so I was pretty happy with how it turned out.
Yeah, shout out. I was just going to say shout out as always to the Underdog crew helping us get those live streams. I mean, it's like I would love to do more stuff like that, but like the tech when you're remote and can be very difficult, and they always make it easy on us.
Man, their schedule with like doing live stuff too is so crazy. I was talking to Aaron for a little bit there, and like right after that, she was doing NFL free agency with like Colt McCoy and Jay Gruden and those guys, like instantly flying there. They had just left spring training to come to there. So like they're bouncing from show to show to show, like just constantly setting that stuff up.
Yeah, it is. It is the hardest part of the content is like the tech stuff when you leave the comfort of your own webcam. But yeah, John, how was your travels back? How are you feeling post Dawg Bowl here?
Honestly, feeling pretty refreshed, man. It was like low key, like a vacation. Had a different feel this one comparative to ones in the past. Like didn't feel like we were scheduled for doing tasks the whole time and stuff. It felt like you brought the family out, other people brought their families out. It really had a really nice laid back West Coast energy feel to it.
I think there's also too, like the NFL weeks, like the NFL infrastructure, and for us for fantasy, there's so much drafting, there's so much content, like all of that around it makes those weekends feel like a bigger monstrosity as far as things you have to do. Where it's like, yes, we had NBA slates going on, but there's something about it that felt a little bit more laid back there. Nez, how did it look from afar there? Not to rub it in too much.
No, it looked awesome, man. I'm excited to hear some stories from you guys, on screen, off screen, etc. About how everything went. And obviously, like you guys said, and what I've heard from everybody else that was there, it sounded like it was as good as always. Yeah, I was jealous, but I know you guys held it down.
Well, John, too, as we tell stories here, I did get all those photos downloaded that Numi sent over. So if there's a relevant photo, I can try to pull some photos up here too for people to get a flavor.
I mean, that's a great call. Yeah, I mean, maybe that's just a great place to start for people who have never been to one of these events. I mean, they got like a full team, professional photographers, videographers walking around capturing moments that like, we're not even privy to. Like you guys got pictures with their wives with the sunset, like professional candid photos all the time. Like it's just like another nice little value add that Underdog does for the people. It's really cool.
Yeah, this was our setup for shooting here. And the one that I think Numi posted the one on here, which is the most like John saying something ridiculous and then me having to indulge it. And did you find another excuse to put TJ McConnell on a thumbnail today?
I did. He has the Q tag and Hallie has the Q tag. You never know, Pete. You just never know when TJ's going to strike. Yeah, it was, man, bittersweet, hilarious run out for the TJ McConnell stuff. Like, obviously, like we've had this ongoing bit forever, but the fact that he actually became relevant and then became a swap viable and then just got hurt instantly was, insane. Like, I don't know. That's a poetic story associated with Dawg Bowl.
We also got to give a shout out to Kristen here in this photo. She's the wizard behind these events. And I've said it before too. I don't think people realize how much goes into planning events like this, like all the logistics, both from a food standpoint, entertainment standpoint, itinerary standpoint, making sure everybody has a good time. And Kristen is so good at it. All of the venues. This was at the Paradise Point hotel where we were at, and then we all went and watched the game at this place called the PB Shore Club, and she handles all of it and just does an incredible job.
Dude, when you mentioned food there, the food was like legit good. Like not good for an event. It was legit good. Like lobster tails, big ass prawns, crab legs, like stuff like that. Omelet bar to chef up your own omelet at the draft in the morning. It was the food was definitely a highlight. The food in the resort, I mean, all of it was amazing, but the food in the resort were top shelf.
Here is a young, prodigious drafter, goes by the handle Awin here. He said he brought his quant with him. I guess this is the quant. Here, the man running the projections behind the scenes. But it was great. Awin, I felt the first Dawg Bowl was a little more shy, John. I felt like he had come out of his shell a little bit this one.
Oh, very much so. He's a lot of fun to be around. The quant, all I flashbacks to that Ryan Gosling scene in The Big Short when he has the quant. That's all I can think about. When you're saying.
If you want to talk about a vibe, how about this guy right
yes.
here? Oh yeah. Viper's energy was great. Ran into him. He's doing morning beach walks with the headphones on to lock in and that sort of deal. One thing on Awin there, he was so sonked from doing all the prep, jamming the Dawg Bowl, jamming 150 lineups and stuff like that. When we're at the Shore Club at the watch party, he falls asleep on the desk in the corner on in the whatever, and the manager comes over and like taps him and whatever. Then she goes, and I'm kind of watching this from afar, and then tells the bouncer, and then the bouncer goes over and then tells another bouncer. And I went running after her, and I was like, no, like this guy doesn't booze. Like he's so tired from like being a student and all this stuff. Like don't get the boot out of here kind of thing. And she's like, can't sleep here. I was like, he's about to maybe win 300K. He could do whatever the hell he wants. Like let the kid catch a nap real quick.
I do have to address this as we go along the pictures. Who won Gumby's DFS contest? So I shouted this out on the stream. I shared it on Twitter. Gumby created this really cool showdown style contest so people could build fantasy teams and sweat the participants. He lost the lineups is what I saw in Discord. Des, was there any updates on this or did they truly vanish into the ether?
No, honestly, Pete, I was directed by our lawyers that we weren't even supposed to talk about this. We have a statement coming.
Okay.
Because we put our good faith into Gumby. We put our good faith. We touted this contest. We thought it was going to be a fun experience for everybody, and we got rugged. So we have a statement from our lawyers coming soon. It's really sad. It's really unfortunate that Gumby lost this because I would have crushed. I had A1 captain. I was the only one that had A1 captain. No one wanted to pay up for A1 at captain.
Wow. And John, you and I, though, we're off the hook because we were each kicking in $100 into the prize pool. Maybe we each slid Gumby $50 and said, hey, we can all make a little money here. If you lose
one of these lineups just disappeared.
Oh, my God.
What Pete didn't share from that previous picture was that I was actually after the show, and that was me sharing my hands like that. I was like, yeah, we're going to be out of the lineups. All the lineups are gone. The lineups are
gone. This was another super fun part of it. The whole weekend at the drafts, the party, Nick Young, Gilbert Arenas, Brandon Jennings, Kenyon Martin, Josiah, and Rashad McCants all hanging out there. They did their own draft. And watching those guys get to react to some of the stuff. Nick Young was asking me about what the badges were. Gilbert Arenas was over the moon, John, for getting the 101. Yeah. I put on Twitter, Brandon Jennings, when he saw Şengün go third overall in one of the drafts, he was like, Şengün, third overall? I don't know about that. They were a fun time there, taking in all of us nerds drafting fantasy teams.
Dude, they were genuinely really nice guys. Like they actually wanted to be there. They actually wanted to hang out with us. Like it's so easy for them to just do like an appearance thing and then just, fuck off. Like man, when they chatted with us for what would you say, Pete, that breakfast there, maybe for an hour before the drafts and stuff like that, they took it serious. Like Gil was walking around asking people for advice. I saw him sitting with, he's sitting with the Wood, and he was sitting with Coach there for a little bit, asking them who his like picks were. He was like hand drafting down like on a piece of paper, like his targets for the draft and stuff like that. Man, they loved it and they took it seriously. They talked about it on their show yesterday. Just really good for draft games in general and really good energy from them.
Yeah. Which of these guys would you have been most excited to meet as a Hoops fan, Nez?
I think Swaggy P, man. I would have been really excited to get to meet him, because like I was like having him on fantasy teams and stuff.
Yeah.
Whenever he was still playing, like Gil, I watched Gil, with the Blue Wizards and stuff, but like Swaggy P was like right in the middle of like me being like first really following the NBA. It was Nick Young, so I would have really liked to chop it up with him.
For me, it definitely would have been Agent Zero. Like when we were kids and playing in the driveway and stuff like that, like someone was always being AI and calling those one out. Everyone was going Kobe on it, and then someone was going Agent Zero from way back and launching a three. Pete, actually, I said on our previous show, I just wanted to share a nugget when we were chatting with them for a bit there. You and I and your wife were talking to them for almost an hour. They're talking about the injury report and the lifestyle and all this sort of stuff. I just wanted to share like a little bit of the alpha. Like those guys, man. Now I think the NBA injury report has changed a little bit in recent memory comparative to maybe even Nick Young's era, but maybe even like going back further to like Gil's. He's like, man, the present versus, I was asking about the present versus participating in shoot around, and they're like, dude, we had no fucking idea. They just wrote down whatever they wanted. They didn't tell us, like this kind of deal. It was pretty funny to hear it from a player's standpoint. They're talking about like, yeah, man, if we were hungover, maybe they slap us with the Q tag, and then they would tell us 5 minutes closer to lock if we were going to play or not. It was really funny to hear like stuff that we take so much stock in every single day and talk about on every show, and they just kind of wave it.
Gilbert was kind of explaining how when the schedule comes out that they'll like sit down with the coach and basically sketch out kind of a mock, like you're probably going to sit on this back-to-back, and that they'll actually do kind of a, like, this will probably be a win. This is probably a lot, like literally just gaming it out. So they have a rough idea. And I think I asked like, what would be your ideal amount of games to play? Like what your body can handle. And they said around 70. So you'd have about 12 games off a year, which is like an interesting thing of what you think, like what it requires on you as an athlete and what you can realistically handle with these road trips and back-to-backs. And it's like, yeah, like the whole reason we have to deal with load management is because these guys are probably playing 12 too many games than what they should be relative to what is asked of them.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I know nobody's like, most people at least watching this, like don't really have a bad view of rest in the NBA, but like play 42 minutes. Not 42, like 36 minutes of basketball on the hardwood, like sprinting, jumping, running, cutting, like at our ripe old age, man, that shit is so hard. Like like these guys do deserve the rest that they get. And like the ones that do play are just like, it's like unbelievable.
One other thing that we talked about was the altitude stuff, because we always talk about going to altitude and does it affect guys and stuff like that. And Jennings was like, yeah, man, I was dogging it after like the first 5 minutes. He was like, man, I could feel it in my lungs. I could do this sort of thing. And Gil was the opposite. He had like what did he call it, Pete? Like a alpine
he said he bought the first, he was the first NBA player to have an altitude chamber, he said, to acclimate.
Yeah. So he would just sit there and play video games in the altitude chamber. And sometimes he'd like fall asleep or like nap in there, and he wasn't supposed to. And he'd wake up and like catch his breath and shit like that. But he got like acclimatized faster than other players did.
Yeah. Brandon, though, he was like, he specifically said his rookie year where his conditioning early on was just not prepared for what it was in the NBA, and specifically in Denver. I got a few shots pulled up here. This was of the actual draft. So this was, again, like on the resort, not far from where they had the welcome party, but there's a restaurant. And then they had this nice little patio deck where they had the big screen here for drafting, and then overlooking the bay here. I'll see if I can get some shots of that, but you can kind of see over here looking out, and then all of the fellas hopping on the couch. And then here's kind of like a shot of the draft boards they had up here. But yeah, John, as far as location EV, pretty good on that front.
Yeah, very much so. I mean, like just nestled in its own little like island harbor area and wraparound beaches everywhere. You could kind of walk 25 minutes around the resort along the beach there. And then, 3 different locations for each event there that all had amazing views.
Yep. And then, of course, the Berm was doing some post draft interviews with the Gills Arena crew here. Any other thoughts on like the drafting? I know one thing that happened is we ended up having to kind of do a couple of them concurrently, just because I think the timing got a little bit abbreviated. So, they were tabbing back and forth, but it didn't seem like it was a big issue for everyone when you have 5 drafts. It didn't have to be like the NFL ones where it was like, all right, this is the draft.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think they made the best of a unfortunate timing issue there, but the timing was all perfectly planned out and spaced out. What ended up happening is adding the 3 p.m. game onto the slate. Originally, it was only going to be a 7, and they spaced it out according to that. And then once we got in the action, and then it was like, oh wait, we did add that 8th game onto the slate, and we are starting an hour early, which was a great addition from like both player pool standpoint and from the venue standpoint, so that when we rolled up, there was a game on right as we got there, and we had something to sweat immediately, kind of thing. Without
Hot
that,
Dogs was happy about it.
yeah, no doubt, right?
Double Davante.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, I tweeted out that morning, the most important man in the world. Did I not, Nez?
You did. I seen it. You had the headshot right there.
Yeah.
So then we had the world's biggest Uber, which was this giant bus that took everybody over from the resort to where we were watching the game, which was this pretty sweet spot called the PB Shore Club. And we had the entire deck just to ourselves, so you can kind of get a view of it here. Wow. So they had the spread, all the tables, big screen TV, kind of not pictured here. The other funny thing, Gil went live from one of his YouTube channels. It was just live for the entire time, just with his headphones on over in the corner. Like, he was grinding.
Davis Maddock, man, step up your game. Like, this guy is dedicated to the content.
Yeah. I went in on my phone just to see, because I think he has the second YouTube channel. They have the main one, obviously, but I think it's like No Filter Gil or something like that. And he had like 3,300 people just watching him live, like drink cocktails and chilling over here in the corner.
Don't let anybody tell you streaming isn't alive and well. Sorry, John.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, he was live on playback and stuff like that as well. So people were watching the games alongside him, and he's talking about the games as
That's
well.
So
and
cool.
then people were rolling through. But when it came time to explain the Dawg Bowl, he was like, yo, where that dude with the TJ McConnell jersey at? And we had been chatting the day before. And then he's like, yo. And then like I was like, I was kind of like lingering and hanging out there because Sam Wilson and his girl are right on the other side there, trying to pick Sam Wilson's brain a little bit. He's like, come over here. And he's like, John, tell these people like what the Dawg Bowl is all about and stuff. So I did weasel my way onto the Gil stream for a minute there.
You had the some of the Hoops crew here. Jordan, obviously A-Win here. Our guy Wood, who again, shout out. You can see over his shoulder, we had the official Wood leaderboard there, which was great. Also having like the lineups just displayed right next to it too made it a really cool and easy sweat experience. Although I will say, I was looking at that leaderboard a lot throughout the day. There was not much movement. It was just lulls, 1, 2, kept waiting. You saw a little A-Win shuffling up there. But man, lulls just had that on lock.
Yeah, that was it was kind of crazy. It did get kind of sweaty at the end there. If we had seen overtime, Play to Win was pushing up quickly with a Tobias Harris team. And then Dallas, who's in the purple, who's kind of between A-Win and Stone, his buddy there. Dallas had a Draymond Green plus Tobias Harris team that was coming, but they were still like, 15, 20 points back at one point there. I was expecting way more movement in the leaderboard because Sean kept asking me, he's like, oh, we should get some interviews with him early. And I'm like, it's way too early. It's way too early. This isn't like football. Like someone's dropping a 50 burger and that Tatum team's going to jump and whatever. And sure as shit, he just held wire to wire. It was wild.
Yeah, it was funny too because Lowell's was he was hanging out. His perch for the whole day was over by the leaderboard here. Very, low key. He was not counting his chickens before they hatched, looking at all the PMR and stuff, which ended up being a pretty big anti-sweat for him. Like just looking around the whole time, especially when that game started to get a little close late through Celtics, and you're like, oh shit, like please no OT, please no OT.
Yeah, Celtics were up like 16 at one point there, and then they closed the gap to 2, and it was like, oh shit. And then Awin had a Al Horford swap team that had Zinger on it, and then also had Austin Reeves, and Austin Reeves missed a pretty big 3, and that would have like brought it to 1, and there was probably about a minute and a bit left there that could have got a nice sweat for Awin there to push it to overtime. If there was overtime in either of those 2 games, Hot Dogs kept saying, I'm dead. Pete, before we get to this moment there, I really wanted to share Johnny's story. We did get it on camera, but General Blue, member in the community, both you and I spoke to him at the very first welcome party, I guess the optional one at the brewery. There he is. Him and his wife there, or girlfriend, I can't remember which, sorry. But yeah, they were just hanging out, and he basically deposited on the site for gauntlet drafts. The gauntlet filled, and then he was like, well, the money's already on here. Guess I better play basketball, and drafted a bunch of old dudes that he knew from before. So like Dame Lillard and guys like this were on his team, and it was his first ever hoops draft on the site, and found his way to the Dawg Bowl. San Diego resident as well, so pretty cool.
Yeah, he was he like lived very close to the venue, but I was like, I'm staying at the hotel. Did I little staycation there at home. Yeah, getting to hear a lot of the stories from these guys. I know you guys are going to have Lowell's on tomorrow.
Yes, sir.
Nice. Yeah. So we'll save kind of his story for that. You guys can tune in. But yeah, super gracious winner. And of course you had the confetti going off here, comes out and gets the official Dawg Bowl champion. Berm runs over because he goes first, second. So having the 200,000 on the check isn't enough. He crosses it out, adds the 3 there for the 300,000.
Wow.
And then and we have our champ there at the end, Lowell's hot dog. Yeah, so super fun finish to that day. And then I will say I was the old man. I did not go to the club after John. So if you have stories from the club, that's going to be on you.
Pete, I snuck out too and played the old man card as well.
Wow.
I hopped on the bus with a bunch of the participants. I was going to maybe I was still pondering whether I was going to go to spring training the next day or not, and then elected not to. But yeah, I'm happy I did, because when I jumped on the bus, I shuffled on down and found an empty seat beside Pay to Win. And he was a guy who was putting up jumpers at the opening party there. Only talked to him kind of during when we were playing the knockout game and that sort of thing, but then talked to him for about 20 minutes on the way back. And really cool story. Really nice to meet him. Going to school still in Virginia. He's like 22, 23, something like that. His girlfriend's in nursing school, couldn't come out. He was kind of like, by himself while he was out there, but, mixing and mingling while he was there. But he was, he was really happy and really fortunate. First time out on the West Coast there. Ended up getting 2 lineups up near the top at the very end there for about 70-ish K, 60-ish K. Unfortunately, a Draymond steal on the last possession that was barely a steal. Cost him, 10 or 15, he said. But yeah, really nice chat with him for like 20 minutes on the way back there. So getting to know another member of the community who's, he says he's always lurking, he's always watching, primarily a football guy, but found some success in the hoop stuff this year.
One other thing we didn't talk about at the party, John, is there was a pretty epic game of horse that took place, or not horse, sorry, knockout. There where Oaks grabs the mic. This is more towards the end of the night and says, $1,000 game of knockout. Whoever wins gets $1,000 in their Underdog account. Then immediately a line of 40 people developed here. And just real quick, accidental photo of me doing a reverse dunk there. I don't know how that slipped into the knockout portion here. But so there's this huge game of knockout. John, we got to talk about some of these shooters. First of all, Numi goes deep. Numi's jump shot is nice. Like he was real, like he was just every single one. I don't think he touched rim, John, for his first 8 shots.
I felt the brunt of it because he was standing right behind me, Pete. So I was able to knock down the first couple there, but he was wet with it. I think he made like 8 in a row from the line there, but unfortunate for him that professional coach and former overseas player was right behind him as well there in Gators. So yeah, no, it was pretty impressive to see some ballers out there, some good shots getting up. Our guy Chandler Blake went pretty deep as well. Yeah, it was good to see.
There were some good hoopers. You mentioned CR Blake was really good. Wood was really good there too. It got like legit competitive near the end. There are 4 or 5 guys, nobody's missing. Everyone just like sprinting back. It was a pretty good finish there. But of course, Gator, the ringer who actually trains, professional level athletes, takes it down.
That's so funny.
There you go. I believe they ended up giving, I think this guy was the +1. I don't know why he's obscured here. I think he ended up getting second and they gave it to him. Wasn't he somebody's guest, John?
Yeah, I believe he was wearing the Bulls Dennis Rodman jersey the next day. I can't remember his name right now.
Yeah. But he ended up getting the actual prize there as well. Look at the shot I just noticed it here of Nuvi. This is
nice.
Mogging right there.
There you go. This is a good one of Viper as well. That feels like it should be a profile picture. But yeah, I think that there's a few more shots of Lulz here with his Dawg Bowl trophy, and you can kind of see down in the corner here the $3 million or $300,000 check.
I did keep the tradition alive there, Pete, and made him drink a rum and coke out of it.
Did you really? Okay, there you go. Yeah. Jordan was doing a good job repping Saber Sim on Friday. He had the hat, and then on Saturday he had the hockey sweater. Yeah.
ETR crew too there. Patrick Barnes YouTube was always wearing ETR swag there, making sure it was in the shots.
There you go. And then all the seafood and stuff. This was like a good shot of the setup. They had the big TVs over here, and then you had the both nights had the raw bar, so people were enjoying the crab legs, the shrimp, all of that stuff.
Yeah, Sunset was legit too. We ran a couple of the interviews there. Sam Olsen, first time on camera, finally got him there, boys. Did a little bit of an interview with the sunset dropping in the background. It was a beautiful view of the ocean. Yeah, gorgeous.
It was funny because I was out for the whole week, and so with my parents and Lauren and April, we had an Airbnb that was like a mile that happened to be a mile from the venue, and then my parents came and walked with April down to the beach, like right out here, and then I left to go say hi to them for a while, and then while I'm out there, I run into this guy who's like a Fantasy Life reader that has the I Suck at Fantasy Football onesie. I don't know if you saw this tweet. And so I say something to him, and he's out there doing the punishment with his buddies. Like one of his league mates has the title belt on his shoulder, and they're walking around Pacific Beach. He had to wear this all day as a punishment for losing his league. So even outside the venue, fantasy football was still prime in San Diego.
So good, man. So good.
But yes, I agree here with Go AZ. Nez was sorely missed there. Nez, how are things back on the home front?
Yeah, thanks guys. I appreciate the kind words. Things are good. We're still on track for Saturday, but every time I look at it, I'm like, there's no way you're gonna last another hour. Like this baby's coming. You're massive. Like how is that baby still hanging in there? I have no. We joke about it.
Oh.
She's doing well. So I've got like we got to be at the hospital at like 5:30 in the morning on Saturday. So that'll be a lot of fun.
Is it scheduled right now? Is she doing like scheduled C-section?
It's a scheduled delivery. Yeah. So.
Oh, scheduled delivery. Interesting.
Like getting induced. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
probably.
I see.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah. So Saturday morning.
There you go.
Unless something happens sooner. That's like the vibe.
Yeah. Which like I'm telling you, man, I wouldn't be surprised if we're ahead of schedule, but we'll see.
Man. So there you have it. NBA Dawg Bowl in the books. Another success there from Underdog, and there are already lots of chatter about people wanting to qualify for the NFL one after seeing that. So
hey, Pete, don't just gloss over this summer, bro. Don't just gloss over the summer so quickly. There's a lot of interest in these MLB streets, buddy. There's a lot.
We're gonna force the issue.
I don't know. I'm not saying no.
I'm gonna just.
Come on,
I can see John hosting his own, MLB Dawg Bowl, and it's John just like throwing slow pitch to guys, like doing beer softball games, playing games of pickle out there in some random park he doesn't have a license for. It sounds. I can see that.
Mr. Goodboy and Mr. Goodboy's Dawg Bowl.
Yeah,
chilling in the park. Actually, in that vein, Pete, I did come home on Sunday and link up with the boys for a home league. We get our baseball team, like alumni team, together every year for a draft, and I honestly I didn't want to miss it, but we dust off the bats and the gloves. We have a home run derby for draft order. We play flips, we toss it around a little bit, and then we have a baseball draft. So we did that on Sunday night there. So dudes drafting dingers in real life. So yeah, it was pretty fun.
That's how did you like how your team turned out?
Oh yeah.
Are any of your hometown friends, are they like deep in the daily streets at all, or just more casual fantasy players?
No, like I got a couple sickos that play redacted, and then I got a couple buddies who are redded up badge bros on Underdog as well.
Okay, so it wasn't like a walk in the park. You had to compete with some players there.
They take it seriously. Like the guy who's the commissioner of this league, like they all play on other platforms, but this league in particular, there's like it feels like a pack meeting or like a school meeting, or it feels like a what's the word I'm looking for? Like a strata meeting or something like that, where he runs down all the points from over the top of the year of how we could change the league and better the league and
bylaws.
Oh my God, it's just the bylaws of it all. It's fucking hysterical.
That's funny. All right, you guys want to I've been trying to soak in all of the NFL free agency news. You guys want to kind of bounce around and talk about some of these, give some knee-jerk reactions?
Definitely, man. Absolutely. This is starting to get this is what's got my spark back into NFL drafting, is seeing some guys land and sign and things move around. Like this is like I did a bigger board, I was in your lobby on stream today, and it was a lot of fun. I'm starting to get the spark back for football.
Well, let's start right with maybe a player near and dear to your heart. And I want to say that, haven't you been tweeting like Najee's going to look so good in powder blue? Like, didn't you call that? I remember you saying that at some point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I thought that was like written in the stars that Harbaugh was gonna have his eye on Najee.
Yeah. So I did the draft this morning. He went like 10 picks ahead of ADP. I think his ADP is kind of fake right now at like 102, 103. He went like the early 90s, both drafts. Seems like an awesome price to me. I mean, what do you think about the fit?
Yeah, no, I think it's fantastic. I mean, J.K. Dobbins out of there, Gus Edwards, dust. Najee's primed for a hell of a role. The best offense he's been in since maybe year 2 of his NFL career. It really depends on who's going to be around there with him, but like he can handle a big workload. And they've got a hell of an offensive line in LA. I mean, I'll toss it to you guys. Like, where do you think Najee ends up, assuming that he doesn't get absolutely cucked? And like, I don't think that he will via draft. Like, pick 60, is that too low?
I think that sounds about right. I think like just ahead, like I took David Montgomery randomly in both my drafts this morning. I think like just ahead of David Montgomery, like 65-ish, like that seems pretty solid for him.
Yeah, like it. I think they're gonna draft someone. They got like 6 picks. I was just looking. They have 6 picks from like round 4 onward or something like that. So I imagine they bring somebody else in. But 9 million or play up to 9 million in a contract, and the fact that he got signed like right away, they obviously like him. And then everybody's citing like the old how Harbaugh tried to recruit him, and then he went to Alabama, and like all these narratives with him. I think a super lazy bro sciencey comp is kind of like Josh Jacobs last year, where it's like we want a reason to push him down, instead of like, because the fantasy community is so like anti-Jacobs, anti-Najee, anti like this. But like Najee did have a really good year last year, and some metrics will indicate that it was in fact his best. But he's a reliable, durable, early down workhorse, and that's what a guy like Greg Roman, that's what a guy like Harbaugh want, right? So I think it's very bullish that he signed there nice and early too. I don't know, so much overhaul in the Seattle offense there that, and turmoil with New Orleans, he could keep on climbing, dude.
Yeah, and especially like I'll even get more, because what you're getting excited about specifically are the touchdowns in Los Angeles. And if that offense can get a little better, maybe they get some other wide receiver to complement Ladd. And then all of a sudden it's like, okay, well now Najee has like 15 touchdown upside, like in this offense.
I hope they actually do go and get like a real wide receiver. I have like, I don't know why I have this thought in my head that they're just going to like re-sign Mike Williams and call it a day. Like they just seem like so uncommitted to like actually bringing in, to like putting together a good offense. They're so committed to the trenches, and it's done well for them so far. I really hope that they bring somebody, that pairs well with Ladd in and give Herbert the weapons that he deserves.
Yeah. Joshua Palmer gone now too.
Yeah. Big money for Josh Palmer.
Yeah, to the Bills there. The Bills kind of they just basically did a 1-for-1, like we lose Mac Hollins and we sign Joshua Palmer, which is like there's nothing wrong with Joshua Palmer being like your 4th best wide receiver, but the Bills will like ask him to be like their 1B right now based on their depth chart, which doesn't seem ideal. Which is funny, like he's still incredibly cheap in best ball drafts, but man, if I'm spending an early pick on Josh Allen, I would certainly be taking stabs on Palmer late.
Absolutely. Professional ass wide receiver.
Yep. The other fun one, Nez, as far as the Steelers, another guy who I think is getting a huge fantasy boost, Justin Fields to the Jets. I mean, I was staring at this morning trying to process it, and I'm like, he's going to play. Like, they're not going to be drafting a rookie who can challenge him. Like, isn't he going to be 50 picks more expensive by lock?
Yeah. Definitely. I'm excited to see what else they do in for the Jets, because it's Garrett Wilson and like I can't even think about who else they have, like Malachi Corley, like who they have like really though for the Jets. So hopefully they give him some decent help there. I was excited wherever he was going to go. I thought that he played well enough to start somewhere, and clearly he did with New York. I would have preferred him back in Pittsburgh, obviously, because if they end up with Russ, I tell you what, guys, this might be a 2-man show. If that happens, man. I'm out of here.
I'm sad to your avatar in the cuck chair.
Yes,
in your absence. Okay.
Yeah. You can even use my voice and likeness and make me. You can use AI Nez for what I've got. No. I like it, man. I think Justin Fields is like way more competent of a real life quarterback than people want to give him credit for. Like he has a certain skill set, and I think that it can be valuable. We just need to see how things shape out for the Jets. I'm gonna miss him.
Yeah, he's always been one of our kind of like fantasy darling favorites around here. I'm a little scared that the team will skew super run heavy, but that's not necessarily bad for Justin Fields in any regard. It's bad from like a real life standpoint, but from a fantasy funness and goodness standpoint, if you get 13 games out of Justin Fields, like I mean, I would take him over Anthony Richardson right now. I would take him over.
Oh, for sure.
I guess the JJ McCarthy one is kind of interesting because, now we definitively have information that Darnold's gone, and we've seen what much lesser quarterbacks, or presumably what much lesser quarterbacks in like Joshua Dobbs and Nick Mullins and Sam Darnold, for instance, have done in that KOC offense. So that one's an interesting kind of like stopgap for me. But like, I don't know, Penix and Lawrence versus Fields, where would you guys be at on that conversation?
I mean, I just think where we're going to get with him is like close to Drake May. I think that's like kind of where you're saying single game upside. Drake May, there's nothing fun to stack him with. Fields, it'll be pretty much as Garrett Wilson, but you can take Fields any which direction. You don't have to stack Fields. And the whole reason he was cheap last year was because we didn't think he was going to start 17 games. And I mean, like, things would have to go horribly, horribly wrong at this point, or for them, because they're not going to take a quarterback at 7? And then what quarterback is available to even challenge Justin Fields as a rookie? I mean, at best, you're in like a Spencer Rattler situation, right? Like, where maybe you get a couple starts, but even then, you're going to feel comfortable with how many games Justin Fields is going to play.
Yeah, perfectly said.
I'm excited for him.
Yeah, I'm going to definitely try to be targeting him in some of my upcoming drafts.
Can we do the next one? Sorry, I want to, just while we were kind of on that conversation with, McCarthy being kind of like the wild card in that range there. Can we have the McCarthy and Sam Darnold conversation in terms of like where you guys think those guys should be now? Because I do think like McCarthy should be a riser. The Darnold one, I'm not overly bullish on. Like, I think it's just kind of like fine. But what are you guys' thoughts on these guys?
What do you think, Nez, on McCarthy at this price versus it, or actually rising from here?
See, I feel like this price is already like pretty palatable. Like, can he? Am I going to take him? Like, he could probably leapfrog Bryce Young, and I think people can maybe talk themselves over leapfrogging Penix because they could say, well, the evil we don't know versus like the quote unquote evil we do with Penix with some of the lackluster games that we saw. I'm still in on Penix. I think McCarthy's already at a decent price right now, and once we switch to 18 rounds, QBs get pushed down the board. And with 20th rounds, you see them go way earlier. I think you're going to see McCarthy probably just like stay around this range. It's clearly bullish that they are like all in on JJ McCarthy. And I mean, for those who are not like understanding why, I think most people do is, I mean, they're taking advantage of this QB rookie contract so aggressively and making all of these free agent signings, like beefing up the trenches, re-signing Aaron Jones. I mean, they are, in my opinion, pretty pot committed to JJ McCarthy and having him work. And with KOC, like you mentioned, with the guys that have worked with KOC, why can't it work with JJ McCarthy?
Right. Like, they don't even have a contingent plan right now. Like, they literally have nobody else on the roster behind him at the quarterback position.
Yeah, it was talk about Aaron Rodgers, but Aaron Rodgers would have to take a discount to go here as opposed to going to Pittsburgh or the Giants.
Yeah, I think I'm with Nez in that this price seems like fine to me, and I wouldn't necessarily be chasing him up. It is a perfect situation, but I mentioned this morning. Like, we still don't know that he's good, right? Like, we all think he's good. We like the setup, but until we see it for more than a couple of games, we also don't ever know too, like, how much is he going to run? Even with Bo Nix, it was like we knew he's going to run a little, and then I was like, oh, whoa, like he's ripping off some big ones. Like the band for his fantasy value, I think like the range of outcomes is still like really wide, and I'm happy to open myself up to that variance, but I do think he will have a hard time getting much pricier than 130, 140 in BBM, just because of the point Nez said. There'll be way more 2 quarterback teams, way more quarterbacks getting pushed late. And he'll probably be an easy guy to get overweight on if you want, right? You're going to think about the backdoor stacks with that young wide receiver room. They probably draft a wide receiver, whether it's Tet, whether it's another one of these guys. They will be a fun team, I think, to attack as far as like back stacks.
Yeah, cool.
Oh, sorry. I was mixing up Bryce Young with JJ McCarthy in my head there just for a second.
That one, I was like, yo, they're drafting another wide receiver.
No, for some reason, I just started talking about Bryce Young as I stared at him. But yeah.
And then to take it to Sam Darnold, the second part of your question there, John. I mean, how can anybody be excited right now about Sam Darnold in Seattle?
Yeah.
They completely stripped down the team. You would think that they draft a young wide receiver. Obviously, they would obviously draft a wide receiver. You would think. I mean, they're going to tell us a lot about what is left in free agency and in the draft about their aspirations for this year. Because obviously right now, I mean, they're like everybody in Seattle's value right now is, it's pretty bottomed out at the moment. There's really nowhere else to go but up unless they do nothing from here.
Yeah. I think the bull case would be around like the pieces of like Kubiak being like, this team's going to skew like run heavy. And maybe this is a good thing for like the running backs or something like that. Also, like, I don't know, probably net neutral. I like Geno's okay. Like, but you got younger at the quarterback position, you saved money, and you got a 3rd round pick out of it. Like, that's not necessarily all bad things from like a real life standpoint. That being said, I'm not even sure if I believe Sam Darnold and Geno are kind of 1-for-1 replacements there. But yeah, I think you're right, man. They do have to address the wide receiver position, but they didn't want to pay DK, and that wasn't part of their window of winning now. So they've freed up a lot to get creative. They probably draft 2 wide receivers in this draft.
Like how I would honestly think about Sam Darnold for fantasy, and it's kind of sad. Like, I think he's Aiden O'Connell. And it's like you're going to still draft the shit out of JSN just like you were Brock Bowers, just good enough to facilitate a good fantasy score for Bowers and even like a 1B at times, as we saw with Myers. But he is never going to like give you any kind of ceiling in a game. Like, he's never dropping 30. You're just praying he can support JSN and whatever other wide receiver they bring at 2. Like, I think that's the deal with Sam Darnold.
I will say I like what they're doing as an organization. I like that they're just like fully committed. Like don't half-ass your teardown. Don't like trade Geno, bring in Darnold, and then keep DK and then not get anything for him. Like, I love the way that they were just like, yeah, we're ripping the Band-Aid off. The fans are not going to like us for this year, but we need to load up on assets right now, get a decent quarterback. Like, this is a really good price on Darnold, regardless. Like the price of QBs is absurd. Getting a serviceable QB for that price, considering the cap's going up every single year, I think makes sense. I like that they are like, we are rebuilding, and like we are telling you that we are rebuilding, and they're doing it as quick as possible, as teams should. I think this is smart. Just my standpoint. Sorry for Seahawks fans though.
No, I agree with you in that they were not going to fall prey to the sunk cost fallacy because what they did smart. And I think why it's whiplash for Seahawks fans, it's like, wait, you just brought in a new coach. Like, Geno's clearly a bridge quarterback. DK, Lockett, and JSN was supposed to be like one of the best 3 wide receiver sets in the league. You draft Charbonnet, like you're off. You are ready to go. Like, this is a team that needs to make a run. And then they look around and they're like, okay, we can't. And instead of selling that dream for a couple more seasons, which they could have, like they could have still been a really good fantasy offense, like a really entertaining offense, but like have no chance to compete in the AFC. And they're like, fuck it. Let's rip the Band-Aid off right away.
Yeah. Good shot.
I want to talk about this one. Javonte Williams to the Cowboys. Everyone ADP wise had left Javonte for dead. You can see here 185, which is literally about as free as you can get in 20-round drafts. I saw him today going in the 160s. Obviously a reaction to this signing, but I don't know. Like, seeing how Dallas just ignored the position in the draft last year, if they do that again and Javonte's just this year's Rico Dowdle, I mean, what do you guys think about this price?
Why aren't they bringing Rico back? Like, I thought Rico was like good last year. Like, I don't know. For me, this one, like I want to have like rose-colored glasses and see who he was before the injury, but he's been so different after the injury, and the amount of money they gave him, like, it's incentive laden. There's not that much. There's like basically nothing guaranteed at signing, I believe. Like, and it's a small number. It makes me think that they're just like trying to get someone cheap on the roster for now that they has a little bit of ceiling, and they're just going to keep addressing it further in the future. So he's not like a guy that I'd be like, yeah, I fucking got CLV on and I'm ready to jam this. I think like he probably could be a useful third down back for them this season. But I can't imagine they go into the season with like just him.
Yeah, I don't think that they're done. I mean, for me, this is like Zeke with like slightly more juice with the way that Javonte played last year. Like there was nothing, and he had to beat out Estime, Tyler Bidet, and
Jaleel McLaughlin,
the little guy. Thank you, Jaleel. Like, and he couldn't really do anything. And what was like a pretty favorable situation there. I mean, I'm going to, when it comes time for me to really crank up my draft volume, if the price is too high on Javonte, I will gladly just ignore it. Considering like Dallas had a train wreck of a season last year.
Yeah, I mean, my thing is like, again, you look at some of these running backs here, obviously like the rookies are going to sort themselves out. Like almost all these rookies are going to be way higher or way lower than where they're going right now. So even if we just pull them out and you're looking at some of these second year backs, Jalen Wright, you got Jerome Ford, veteran, Ray Davis, Blake Corum, Algier. Those are kind of the guys ahead of it. Then when you get down to veterans, you're to Braylon Allen, Jordan May. Like I have no problem with him in this range, because the bet you're making is, what if they just do what they did last year again? And Javonte Williams has the Rico Dowdle. I'm kind of okay with it at this price. But like you said, as the summer moves along, if nothing happens, then he inches up in the way Rico did. But yeah, I agree with you. The logical thing for them is to bring in one of these exciting running backs in a pretty deep rookie running back class. And then all of a sudden you get really panicked on Javonte based on how much they invest. But I just think at these prices, like the downside, like he's going right next to Austin Eckler right now. Like it's not that bad.
What do you guys think like the push-pull here would be in terms of ADP? Because if you scroll up a little bit there, like I would be more bullish on Corum still. I'd be more bullish on Ray Davis still. And I'd be more bullish on Jalen Wright. I think Jalen Wright can play. And the fact that they're losing depth in that backfield, like I'd way rather have Jalen Wright right now. Where would you guys be at?
Isn't it kind of, we talk about what you need from a team. If I start with, Bijan and Kyron Williams, like give me Jalen Wright, give me Corum, like I'm taking the big swings. This morning I was doing a 0 RB team where I had Montgomery, like 3 rookies who could be zeros. And I'm like, okay, Javonte giving me some touches in a decent offense makes sense. For me, I think it's team dependent.
Yeah, that's a good shout.
Yeah, I think you guys nailed it.
Let's see here. Let's do another running back one that's kind of interesting. Maybe not like the biggest seismic shift, but Eli Mitchell to the Chiefs, kind of interesting.
Yeah,
very interesting to me.
Yeah, okay, let's hear it. Yeah, you've been the Eli guy for a minute.
Yeah. I mean, like off injury, it just really, you don't know what you're going to get out of him. But like, we're always really excited about next man up in Kansas City, and we don't know how Pacheco is going to heal off this injury. I mean, obviously in the playoffs got dusted by Kareem Hunt. So, I mean, there's a chance that like Eli Mitchell doesn't really have to do a whole lot to like usurp him and find himself into a decent role. He got what, like $5 million?
Yeah, it was a decent amount there. And I believe what's the deal? Is Kareem Hunt still unsigned, or is he, what do they have?
Yes.
He's a free agent.
Yeah.
He's free agent, and then obviously Perine's gone as well already.
And I feel like there's a theme every year with the Chiefs backfield, right? And it's just like a war of attrition, and it's kind of just like who's the last man standing in the fantasy playoffs and the real playoffs. And it's like if Pacheco never gets back to form, if they don't draft someone very exciting, it's like couldn't Eli Mitchell just be their Kareem Hunt like down the stretch again? And that was a very valuable fantasy role at a cost of free there.
Yeah.
He's getting 3.5 in a similar structure where it's like incentive laden to like Javonte Williams. So it's like these guys as, mid 20-year-old guys. Cause like, I think the perception of Elijah Mitchell would be like, he's a little bit older. Like he would be kind of like Raheem Mostert. Cause you think about those two, or at least I do, in the same breath. Like he's turning 27 this year. So like, yeah, I don't know. Like he kind of just feels like, hey, we need a guy that we kind of like on the roster right now. and then we'll figure it out in the future. But yeah, the ceiling outcome is turning into Kareem Hunt, and that was very viable.
Yeah. Yeah, I think he's a good, I mean, because the one thing that's so hard with some of these backfields is just like you don't know what they're going to do in the draft, where there's so much ambiguity, but it's almost like even what they do in the draft, I feel like we just kind of know what Eli Mitchell is going to be. Like he is going to be their running back 2, might even have a standalone goal line role in some spots. And he's not even a big pass catcher, so you're not even worried necessarily about someone coming in and stealing that. The Chiefs have been pretty content having like the Perine or McKinnon that is like a pass catching specialist. And now all of a sudden you have a guy that should have a standalone role, pretty big contingent upside. I guess they could draft one of these top 5 running backs in the draft, and then that guy just wins the job. And all these guys are useless, but seems like a decent bet to me right now.
Is CAH gone? I think he's gone after that was like didn't pick up the 5th-year option. Yeah, okay, yeah.
Stay in New Orleans.
I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah.
All right. Like he was a cut guy last year? Like tail end of last year? Okay.
Yep. Samaje Perine goes back to the Bengals. I'm trying to see anything else like fantasy relevant here. I guess an interesting thing is like Chris Godwin back to the Bucs, and then how you're playing Jalen McMillan.
The Samaje one, just for one sec, is kind of interesting that they go back and they just grab like what they've known from the past as like pass protection and third down role, and kind of, it kind of lowers the ceiling a little bit on the Chase Brown pass catching role and staying on the field. Like if he loses some of those 2-minute drills, because of like what we saw from Chase Brown at the tail end of last year was like he's out there for like 90% of snaps, and like that was like his draw was like he was just never coming off the field after the Zach Moss injury. Now all of a sudden they go back to using more of the 2-back dynamic here. I don't think it's not nothing, but it also makes him probably safe from a rookie who's talented in the draft, ripping his job entirely. But so you can kind of view that one 2 different ways. How do you guys view it?
Well, they still have Zach Moss, right? I think he's still under contract.
I think he's going to be a cap casualty, like a cut candidate.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, then, I guess another shoot a fall.
Well, I'm just thinking like if I'm a Chase Brown bull, I think I would be more excited about Perine getting signed fitting rookie.
I'd be ecstatic. Right?
Yeah.
This is like best case scenario if you're a Chase Brown bull.
Okay.
Because I think what it means is like there was concern that, initially with Chase Brown, like, okay, he's just going to be the rusher. And then they say that was the Perine who was coming in. It's like a split backfield, whatever. Now I think based on what Chase Brown has done, it's like Perine's going to just spell you when you need a breather and maybe some of these 3rd and long situations. Like, I think you'd be pretty ecstatic. I'd be more worried if they brought in like a Travion Henderson, like this guy with some juice who can catch some balls. And now it's like, fuck, he could just force a straight 50-50.
Yeah.
And given the way the Bengals operate, I mean, I don't know. I'd be surprised if they bring in somebody else. Like I was really happy with what I saw from Chase Brown. I hope that they run it back with Chase Brown RB1, but they can't give him 99% of the work, obviously. So whether that's Zach Moss, Samaje, Chase Brown, like if that's the backfield, I'm going to have a lot of Chase Brown, hopefully.
They got Khalil Herbert still too. So if you cut Moss, save the money, you traded for Herbert last year, and you just go into the season with 3.
I thought he's a free agent.
Bullish for Brown. Okay, then
I'm pretty sure Herbert's a free agent.
Oh, okay. UFA. Yeah. You're right.
Yeah. I need to start taking some more Chase Brown. It like kind of feels analogous to the Kyron thing last year where it's like there's a lot of ways this goes wrong. But if the whole thesis, the volume still hits, then he's just a screaming value. And I kind of feel like that would Chase. Like there's a lot of ways, it could still kind of go wrong. But man, if we just run back what happened last year, he is really, really mispriced.
Yeah, and the offense is going to be sick.
Yeah. The Godwin stuff, he resigns. There's a little bit of hope that if he left, obviously you could get McMillan. on the rise. It seems like most people think Jalen McMillan is slightly overvalued. I've been kind of pushing back on that take, just in that I still want exposure to this offense, and good young players with contingent upside are still pretty interesting to me. But what do you guys think about McMillan back there with Godwin in the fold?
I mean, I think McMillan is still a fine pick. I'm going to keep my eye very close to the Chris Godwin prognosis. I think ADP 62 right now. Is that what it is for Godwin?
Yeah.
62. I mean, I'm scared. I'm very scared of that. I mean, the dude's foot was backwards on national TV. I mean, it was a dislocated, that was a catastrophic injury. I would be surprised if he is not a slow ramp up back into camp. And he was finally healthy. It sucked for him. That injury was crazy. I would be shocked if this dude is like full speed at camp.
Yeah. I mean, they paid him. He turned down money, right? Turned down some bigger offers. It was reported to Patriots. I think there was another one in there to return and play. So I don't know what kind of internal, physicals that the teams are running on them. If they're okay, if he was going to get Mark Williams there, that Hoops Guy reference, or I guess I'm saying if teams were willing to throw money at him, gotta assume that his medicals are good. But who knows? John, you have any thoughts on your good old UW boy here?
I mean, he obviously ran super hot on touchdowns last year, but he did the most of with his opportunity, he did the most he possibly could. So at the very least, you got to think that even though this is the fifth OC for Baker in 5 years, or fourth OC, and losing Liam Cohen obviously hurts. I do just still want to be bullish on Tampa Bay offense, and if you do some push-pull dynamic of contingent upside, he's probably going at a very fair price, especially given Evan's age and such. So yeah, there's multiple ways it could break right for him. Who else goes directly around McMillan right now?
Yeah. So he's sandwiched in between a couple of rookies, Emeka Egbuka and Golden. And again, these guys are most likely to move either up or down.
I can't
believe Golden's still 83, dude.
Yeah, I think he keeps moving up. Golden's the guy that moves up, right?
Golden's gonna fly up.
Yeah.
Everything I've seen about Golden and read about Golden, and he had an awesome combine. I'm surprised he's still there.
Yeah.
He seems like a lock to land in that same ADP range of the Rome and BTJ and stuff last year, where he's just pretty much always, mid 6th to mid 7th. That's kind of your range there, which is 70 to 80 range. But yeah, but for McMillan in this range, Jacoby Myers, Khalil Shakur, I can make arguments for him over those guys or with those guys. I think
I like Myers with Geno.
Yeah.
I kind of think that Myers being discount era Tyler Lockett, lazy comp with Pete and Geno.
Yeah. Yeah, I just think we remember you think about this offense too. They were hanging 30 points every single week. I just think it's one of those piece of the pie offenses where he could pay off his ADP with just a few spikes in weeks 1 through 14. And then to smash his ADP, it's the contingent thing. One of Evans or Godwin missed time in the playoffs. And to me, that's not that crazy of a story. And it's the same thing. Should Ricky Pearsall be going ahead of Jalen McMillan? What is the functional difference between those guys?
I took Pearsall over McMillan or I guess they're not even close, but I reached on Ricky today.
Yeah.
In $100.
I'm just thinking if you say Kittle and then Ayuk are the Evans and Godwin, and Pearsall's this high upside third option in a prolific offense. I guess I'm pushing back on people saying Jalen McMillan is overvalued.
Yeah, I think the push pull there would be Ayuk being less healthy than Chris Godwin is. So Pearsall starts the season as kind of like that number 1B or 2 and then doesn't have to relinquish control. Now, I'm not sure if I believe that or not, because maybe the barometer of health is equal between Godwin and Ayuk right now. And maybe the market's overvaluing Godwin a little bit in that regard. But yeah, I can see both right there.
Yeah, and like I said, it's probably this ADP range feels the most fragile for sure with these rookies, some of the veterans. Like this is not going to look the same in mid-July.
The interesting one that I think it was Legendary Upside was pretty high on Downs originally, kind of in that same vicinity with the Daniel Jones.
Yeah.
Now I don't know. Would you rather have McMillan or would you rather have Downs there?
I think I would probably do Downs if I knew Daniel Jones was starting. That sounds like insane to say.
It does sound a little insane to say. Yeah.
I mean, Daniel Jones made $1. I mean, I think Josh Downs is like a souped up Wandale. So
in speaking of that, I mean, you can't I mean, Anthony Richardson is now functionally Justin Fields from last year at this time, right?
Yeah, as far as range of outcomes and what you're
and just not being able to like the whole thing. If you draft Anthony Richardson right now, like what kind of guarantee do you have on him playing weeks 15 through 17? Like that guarantee is pretty small.
Big time.
So, I mean, I don't know how you take him. I mean, like he has to fall. At least Fields, things settled, right? And even in the big board, Fields was still going like in the last round. It was like people acknowledged like, hey, I mean, Richardson's ADP has to drop like 40, 50 picks right now, right?
Right.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if people are just hanging on hope for AR, but I mean, there's so much. I have so much doom and gloom around AR, man. This team has basically told us everything rather than like, we don't think this guy's the future.
Yeah.
And I mean, everybody's on like a really short timeline in Indianapolis right now. So like how much more can they like, sacrifice in the name of development for a year 3 quarterback? I mean, the clock's ticking on these guys' jobs.
Yeah. It's going to be really interesting. And it messes with fantasy stuff too, right? Whereas like the Colts, even I guess the Steelers were a little more limited with Fields where it's like, okay, even if I want to bank on Fields, it's like, okay, you take Pickens and I guess Freiermuth. But the Colts, like, Alec Pierce has shown out. I still have hope that A.D. Mitchell can take a leap. Josh Downs seems really good. They're projected to maybe take one of these top tight ends, if they grab a Tyler Warren or something. And then it's like, man, like, so you're just going to have a whole summer of like not stacking them because I'm telling you, this feels like one of those QB battles that is going to go up through the preseason. Like we're not going to have clarity on this for a long, long time.
Yeah, kind of AOC Gardner Minshew-esque in that regard. Obviously completely different archetypes, but just kind of the way we were drafting last year was like, we just never stacked Bowers because we were like, well, I don't know. But at least these ones, both of these guys have a little bit of rushing floor and I guess rushing ceiling in that breath as well, that you kind of want to be drafting them if you knew for certain that they would be, the top end guy.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, you can't, because it's going to be that situation where even if we got the announcement that one of them starting, going back to what we're talking about, big board prices versus 18-round draft, they're going to be 16th, 17th round picks. It's like, you don't have to take these guys. Like you're going to be able to take whichever one you want pretty much for free the rest of the summer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's pretty bad. And then, how much like Pittman, like he was already pretty cheap.
Richardson,
interesting. He's like shown like decent rapport with Richardson, even though like Richardson doesn't really support wide receivers.
The Richardson sample size is just like fascinating, like 15
fascinatingly
games.
Small.
Yeah, like you know what I mean, like 15 games like that, like barely played at Florida, barely played in high school. Like all that, like narrative is just it's crazy.
Yeah, it's just like, the staff in Indy, they do not have a long leash to like let him develop. Like I just think that's something that's like missed in this discourse is like these are people with jobs. Like they can't just like have projects and like see if we're on year 3 and like he's not a good quarterback, but like could he be one day? Maybe, but we have a pretty good idea that he's not good. And that is backed by the fact that the sample size, even in college, is not that big. And so like in the limit, like you kind of want somebody with reps that's played the QB position. And I mean, there's so much controversy with like what even happened like during the season with Anthony Richardson, the benching and everything surrounding the benching. I mean, I don't know, man. To me, this Colts organization does not seem like one that has patience for AR. All that to be said, sure, weeks in the playoffs, it could be fuck it, throw AR out there and see what happens.
Don't you think it's weird? So like they had Flacco as the quarterback who stylistically couldn't be any more different than Richardson. Traditionally, when teams get the backup of the exact same archetype, it's because they have a clear starter and they're just like, we want to continue to run the offense how we normally run it if there's an injury. Whereas like, I feel like having Anthony Richardson and Daniel Jones, it's like, you're going to be stuck with the same fucking problems with Daniel Jones when he struggles as you are. Like, wouldn't it have made more sense to go out and get Rodgers or Kirk Cousins and have the like other version of Joe Flacco where it's like, all right, we're going to try the Anthony Richardson thing again. If he doesn't progress as a passer, at least we have someone who will be able to throw 8-yard crossers to Michael Pittman and Josh Dowd. It's like, okay, they're going to throw Daniel Jones in there and he's going to have the same fucking issues that Anthony Richardson does.
Right. 100%. Yeah. It's something
$14 million Band-Aid.
Yeah.
I mean, like it's cheap. It's one of the cheapest quarterback contracts you're going to see this year.
Yeah. Like 13 million guaranteed or whatever. It's kind of, it's very similar to the Minshew contract of last year, except for he got 2 years, 20 or whatever, where it's like this bridge money where it's like you're basically our backup, but maybe you're kind of our cheap starter if we need it.
Yeah.
What a mess.
It is. It at least like last year it was fun for fantasy when it's like, oh shit. Like it was really binary where you guys remember for BRs, it's like, oh, it's an Anthony Richardson week. He is like one of the best scroll down naked quarterbacks you can take getting undrafted. Or it's like Flacco's in, boom, like Flacco doubles are on the table. Josh Downs is a top 20 pick. Pittman's like a good sleeper. Like at least that dynamic made it fun for fantasy. I feel like this year it's just going to be a fucking mess.
Yeah, this feels like the Anthony Richardson career arc is going by way of the Trey Lance one, where it's like the sunk cost fallacy of, yeah, we made a mistake with your draft capital and your limited sample size, and we're just slowly phasing it out to cut loss here.
Yeah. Any other random ones? I mean, relative to last year, this is pretty underwhelming. I mean, last year at this time, we're talking about Derrick Henry to the Ravens, Barkley to the Eagles, Josh Jacobs to the Packers, all this stuff. I mean, any other notable moves for you guys that we haven't covered?
I guess it's like the moves that like haven't been made.
Yeah.
What were you gonna say, John?
I was just gonna throw out the De'Ami Brown replacement for the vacated targets. Like, it's not overly fun, but I don't know what you guys think of that one. And I guess we could talk about Deebo because we never talked about Deebo as a group together.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hard for me to like get excited about De'Ami.
Yeah. He flashed in the playoffs, and like the bull case is like just caring about the offense with Cohen, and now with Ingram and Kirk being gone, that frees something up for him. But yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, and I feel like his skill set still overlaps a little bit with Gabe Davis a bit. Brian Thomas is so good downfield. But yeah, he did look good there for a stretch, but it's also hard to untangle it from just Jaden Daniels being so fucking good that he makes everyone around him look pretty good. What are the ones, Nez, of like the Diggs, Keenan Allen? What are the most interesting ones to you?
Yeah, Diggs is pretty interesting to me, even though like, he's coming off the injury. Once we get an idea of what his timeline looks like, I am interested to see like where where he ends up.
Yeah.
But I'm really into Keenan Allen at this current ADP. I can't I made a comment on your stream, dude. How does Keenan Allen go behind Stephon Diggs? I mean, that just makes zero sense to me. I don't think that could make less sense. And for me, it's
one
really
report
easy.
About him being overweight has killed his ADP for 2 straight seasons.
I will never forgive the fantasy community for that. I mean, I'm actually very mad that was a thing. You guys are insane. You guys are absolutely insane. And for me, it's really easy to write off his 2024 because the Bears were a dumpster fire. He was arguably the best receiver in Chicago last year. So I'm really excited to take Keenan wherever he does end up.
Where's a good place for you?
It's way too cheap. Back in San Diego, back in LA with even though I don't know how much he would make sense paired with Ladd, but I mean, there's a lot of targets available in LA, a lot.
I would be stoked to see him in New England with Drake May as his number one. Like from a target perspective, I mean, he would average 10 targets a game in that setup. Obviously, maybe the touchdowns are harder to come by, but man, he could be a catch machine.
That'd be sweet. Yeah, I would like that a lot. I trust Drake May.
Yeah. Patriots have had trouble courting guys right now, man. Like the settle for Mac Hollins and stuff like that after they offered Chris Godwin money and they whatever. He does feel like a good backup contingency plan to Patriots missing out on Chris Godwin, and you bring in, a veteran receiver to show your young quarterback kind of the way and give him that safety valve.
Yeah. I could also see just a team running back the Bears playbook from last year, right? Where it's like we get our rookie quarterback and let's just get him as many weapons as possible. So whether that's like the Titans being like, take Cam Ward and then bring him, or say the Giants do the Shadur Sanders and like, let's get him Malik Neighbors, Keenan Allen, and, just like let him have as many weapons as possible.
I think I prefer the Titans one there. I don't love the overlap in Wan'Dale and Keenan potentially in the other one. But yeah, I like that. I kind of like Blake's comment in the chat there too with the Jags, kind of as like a cheap 1-year replacement for the Kirk and Ingram stuff.
Yeah. That makes a ton of sense to fill the Ingram Kirk void.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Jags are so interesting. I thought for sure they'd keep one of those two and let one go. Seems like they love Strange. I mean, he seems like a guy.
Strange is good.
Yeah. Pick 200 seems like a pretty damn good price for him.
Got him in the 20th the other day still. He was still falling. Yeah.
Yeah, he's the starter there. He's good.
Yeah.
I mean, he was holding back Tyler Warren, who's going to be like a first-round pick, out of Penn State this year.
Good show,
I mean,
dude.
He's come from a lineage of like strong Penn State tight ends.
Yeah. I like it. I know we always think about the teammate stuff for wide receivers. There you go, a little tight ends.
Yeah.
I guess for me, like what's like on my mind is like these free agent wide receivers that haven't signed yet. I mean, I guess sorry, we said we were going to talk Deebo. Do you guys want to do Deebo quickly?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I hadn't seen much. Like his ADP didn't really change much. It was like a few days people were taking him like in the 5th round with their Jaden Daniels 4th round shares because they were excited, and then it just seems like everything kind of chilled out again.
I'll be right back in on Deebo. This is where it's going to go all summer, man. I mean, that's a pretty fun situation with like arguably, it's depending on who you ask, best QB in the NFC with Jaden Daniels there. I mean, just like having the skill of Jaden Daniels, I just think allows for a lot more opportunities for good things to happen with Deebo. I'm worried about how much I'll chase it because I know everybody is like out on Deebo, right? Had a terrible last year. I don't know. It was sort of a shit show in San Francisco. I'm willing to, give him a pass. Somewhat of a pass. I mean, at this price, this is no pass at all. This is a nice pick.
Yeah. He's kind of in that range with like Pickens, who I don't know how you interpret that DK stuff, if that's good, bad. For his value, it's probably bad in terms of like the deep targets, and we don't know what's available at the quarterback position for them yet. So, I mean, like, I could see myself thrusting him over Godwin with the health uncertainty. Well, we kind of put that to bed, but like Pickens, Sutton, like that kind of range, which is another 10 picks higher. Like, who would you guys prefer in that grouping?
I think I prefer Deebo.
Yeah, me too. Just seems fun.
Yeah, that, and we were just talking about like De'Ami Brown, right? Where Jaden Daniels makes everyone around him better. Like it makes the entire offense. He makes these Jags like he made Zach Ertz look like a top 7 tight end. You know, like the stuff Jaden Daniels did for this offense is insane. And if you get Deebo healthier, I mean, you don't know how much of it is just agent speak and player speak, but saying like his conditioning was not there because he had fucking fluid in his lungs and like could not breathe and train properly in the middle of the season. Yeah, like if you buy him getting fully healthy and now getting a role upgrade in an offense that needs receiving production, needs some help in the running game, the perfect like Swiss Army knife for what they want to do. I mean, I can get excited about Deebo real quick.
Cliff Kingsbury's been looking to run horizontal raid with a mobile quarterback and Deebo Samuel for years. He's been staring over that 49ers sideline and being like, I just need that guy in and around the goal line beside Kyler Murray back in the day and now beside Jaden Daniels now. So, like, I mean, I find it really fun. He tried to recreate so many wide receiver touches with, like, Rondale Moore and stuff like that back in the day. Now just insert Deebo into, like, that shit, and I'm instantly like, oh, this is pretty bullish.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah. Pretty uneventful, though, otherwise, I feel like.
Well, there's 2 other ones we didn't really talk about. I mean, it's hard to talk about DK without he's not a free agent signing, but it's hard to talk about DK without knowing the quarterback. But the other one we glossed over was Davante Adams. Like, Davante Adams and the push-pull with Puka and what it means to Cup now and that sort of thing. Like, man, if that offense moves the ball with, like, Adams being an upgrade over Cup and we know what he is as a red zone threat, I mean,
yeah.
Stafford's the wide receiver maker, and this is a wide receiver that doesn't need making. So I don't know, what's the push-pull dynamic for you guys between him going up and or down and Puka going up and or down?
My thought is like Puka shouldn't change. Like this doesn't, in my mind, it doesn't affect him that much. I guess if it does affect him, holy shit, Davante Adams is undervalued by about 30 picks.
Yes. Yeah.
But if we think about last year, right, where people were getting really enthusiastic about Cup, like Puka's ADP just kind of chilled. Like it never fluctuated more than like 3 to 4 picks in either direction. But that Cup steam started coming late where people were taking Cup at the 2-3 turn, like late second. I mean, we're all basically we're all pretty much in agreement that like where Davante Adams is right now is like a way better player than Cooper Kupp. Like, can't you justify Davante Adams as like a solid mid 3rd round pick, like pick 27 to 30? Like, it doesn't that feel like where he'll end up?
Well, it's fun because that area right now that you're referring to, Pete, has a lot of, new wrinkles to it. Like Jackson Smith and Jigba with Sam Darnold. Like, is that still more desirable than Davante Adams with Stafford?
I think with as condensed as that offense is, like it to me, it seems like it could be similar.
Okay. How about, Terry now has to deal with Deebo, or Garrett Wilson now has Justin Fields. Should Adams be kind of jumping in that range?
Man.
I think if you put a gun to my head, I would take Davante Adams over Terry.
So too. I think so
too. Yeah, like I mean, we didn't really see a whole lot of Davante Adams slowing down last year. In fact, he had some great games last year at the end of the season when like him and Aaron started to like figure out the connection again. And like Matthew Stafford clearly still has it. They just paid Davante good money. I don't think that I think it'd be hard to take Davante too early right now. Like as soon as you see him on your screen on the app, like he's able to be drafted.
Like,
yeah, and like you said, like he's done it. You can talk about Tyreek Hill's like down year, and yeah, maybe you assign that to some injuries and stuff, but it's like Adams has done it in every situation with every quarterback play. He's beat the veterans can't do it in week 17. He had that massive game with whatever Dust Ball Raiders quarterback I can't even think of right now. I mean, we were jamming him in off and on the clock pick'ems down the stretch last year, giving targets higher, catches higher, boom, 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 like every time. I'm with you. Like looking at it, he seems really mispriced.
Yeah. I mean, I think the conversation between him and Tyreek Hill is way closer than the ADP indicates right now.
Yeah. It doesn't, don't they seem like similar upside and higher floor for Adams?
Definitely higher floor, ceiling, maybe not, because Tyreek still might have that juice to break 5 slates a year with 40 balls that Adams probably only has 1 of those a year in him, kind of thing.
It's hard not to like Davante Adams more than Tyreek Hill for me. Yeah, I mean, Tyreek Hill, we've seen a pretty stark fall off with Tyreek Hill last year. That was really concerning, considering what he relies on is just like being like the freakest athlete that like we have seen at the wide receiver position. So a fall off with him for a guy of his stature and how he wins is really, really concerning for me. And Davante, we haven't really seen that fall off. All we've seen is like shitty situations that are out of his control.
Yeah. And
I guess it is nice. Like the whole thing was this wrist stuff where he was like, I'm going to play through it, even though most players would have had the surgeries, got the surgery now. So the hope is that was what was really hampering him.
And the quarterback play too, the ineptitude to win without Tua, basically, because they were without Tua for what, 4 or 5 weeks there.
Yeah,
but with Tua, he sucks too.
I was going to say that feels like the reality of the situation for Miami, where you're going to have Tua, he's going to be in and out of the lineup. Like it just doesn't feel like that's ever going to change.
Hey, thank God they got a big signing there in Zach Wilson. Plenty of moms down in Miami.
Wow. And yeah, we the DK Metcalf one that is interesting, Nez. What do you think about Metcalf and Pickens in this offense that we still don't know who the quarterback is going to be?
Yeah, Metcalf's going to fall for sure, as he should. But if Aaron Rodgers is there, I don't know how people are going to react. Will they be excited about it? I would be. I would be excited. If it's Russ, I'm going to be pretty disappointed at this point. I mean, Shane might give Rodgers a blank check, and like, what are you going to do if he gives him 2 years, $50 million a year? Like, sayonara. Like, congrats on saying the highest number, you idiot. Like, there you go. Little Succession reference for my Succession fans out there. Nice. I like the pairing. I don't care that like stylistically they're the same. Like, I can't. I guess like I don't really care. I've seen 2 years of pretty bad Steeler football, or at least this is such an upgrade to what they'd had. It's unbelievable. I'm excited for it. Arthur Smith be damned. QB uncertainty be damned. As a fan, I'm excited. For fantasy, I can understand why you would not be excited. But I don't think it hurts George Pickens a ton, personally. I mean, George Pickens being the one and only option out there wasn't great for him either, So, like, I don't know how things can get much worse.
Yeah, and I guess the one saving grace is if they don't make a big move at quarterback, at least the one thing that Russ has still consistently done the last couple of years is throw the deep ball decently.
Yeah.
So it's like that's his one, like, hang your hat on that. And what are these two guys? They might be terrible for managed fantasy when you have to decide which one to play on a given week, or for our draft games. It might be just impossible. We're playing whack-a-mole between the two, if that is the case. But there is like some ceiling potential there for sure if you get a better quarterback in there.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the quarterback, I think, will go a long way, obviously, in determining how the market feels about this. Because the one thing, if they do get a pocket passer in there, like it can be heavily concentrated to just these two guys.
Oh, yeah. And it should be. If it's not, then something's gone wrong.
Yeah.
The interesting thing with that, though, is like when we talk about Rodgers from like a fantasy standpoint, like, is he best case scenario for them right now? And then we just had this conversation with arguably 2 better weapons and Breece Hall in the backfield, and they still weren't really fantasy viable. Like they had spike weeks here and there, but like neither paid off their ADPs with Aaron Rodgers there. So it's kind of like, are we just going to do this song and dance again all over again? And this is the Jets version, or sorry, the Steelers version of the Jets, where he just bleeds clock and plays slow. And
yeah, I guess like the difference is like Garrett Wilson was so expensive last year. And I think his ADP was warranted. Like, I don't think anybody saw as bad as it was. And we obviously didn't have Davante Adams on the Jets for draft season either. That happened mid-season. So like that was, we didn't like these prices. If it is Aaron Rodgers, they are going to be nowhere near George, Jesus Christ, Wilson. So
yeah.
I think it's different. I think it's different in that regard. And I think he is the best option right now. I think he's much better option than Russ.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, that'll be interesting. I do think you probably just chill out on both of these guys right now because their prices are gonna drop a bit.
Last one. Who's a better fit for them right now, Kirk Cousins or Aaron Rodgers?
My gut tells me that Rodgers has a little bit more in the tank than Kirk. What do you think?
Yeah, I would probably prefer Rodgers straight up.
Also, like if you want to get into this, I mean, Kirk has been so coddled by nice dome environments. At least Rodgers has like played outside in Green Bay, New York. Like that Pittsburgh like schedule is always like no joke from like a weather standpoint.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Kirk Cousins, like all these outdoor like freezing cold games just sound like a disaster.
This is setting up for prototypical, beautiful, ugliest, boringest version of Steelers 10-7, like every year. Like it's like, like from a fantasy standpoint, we're just kind of like, and then from a real life standpoint, you look up and they're the wild card team, and it's like, yeah, okay.
I mean, I think Davis had floated on ADP chasing this week. The Steelers taking like a Jackson Dart with their first round pick. And then like that could start to get fun, right? Because say you get Cousins or Rodgers, and then you're like, all right, but by the time the playoffs roll around, they're like, all right, let's see what we got in this rookie quarterback. And then if you just happen to land on the rookie QB who's way better than everyone thought, then that offense gets really exciting.
That you'd have a really, really tough time benching Aaron Rodgers.
Not the way he played this year. I mean,
I mean like the sandpaper dynamic of signing him then benching him.
Yeah. I just think like at this point, I mean, the amount of money he's getting and the commitment, it's basically like you got to prove it, right? Like with the Jets, he at least got the like de facto Hall of Famer treatment. Like this is obviously your team. But toward the end last year, it was like he is playing so bad. I just wonder if the leash is now maybe shorter than you'd think.
Okay.
Interesting. Yeah, I would be cool if they took a stab at a first round QB again. As long as it's not another Kenny Pickett.
Pickett, yeah, that's a little scar. Wasn't he like the exact same pick range, like pick 21? That's what they have this year.
Yeah, and it was like him or Malik Willis.
Yeah,
I really wanted Malik Willis. Still might be wrong.
They were both awesome.
Well, and I think the thing is you flip the archetype, right? Like they grabbed Kenny Pickett, who was just supposed to be like just be like a poor man's, statue quarterback or whatever. But now if they go out and get the Rodgers Cousins, then don't you draft like someone that has some tools, that it's like a little bit more of a project where the ceiling is higher. Cause even when Kenny Pickett was drafted, no one thought he had like a crazy ceiling. It was like, you could just maybe be a functional quarterback.
Yeah. Here comes the fun one, boys. You bring back Russ, you draft Jackson Dart.
Wait, how does this start with fun? Okay.
and Russ is like the cheap bridge, so you don't have to spend the money. Then you have Dart that you drafted, and then you bring in Trey Lance.
You got to let go of the Trey Lance thing. But yeah.
Come on, take a ceiling shot. Come on,
I think lots of teams have. Yeah. The teams that keep taking stealing shots or ceiling shots on Trey Lance can't seem to find a way to actually ever get him on the field.
Why is that?
All right, guys. This was fun. Getting our bearings here NFL free agency. We'll see what we cook up for next week. We'll probably continue to kind of hop around between NFL. We got hoops. We got dingers. Who knows? Maybe we do a hockey show in here. We'll be some multi-sport draft leads. What is your guys' schedule rest of the day or rest of the week?
Rest of the week we got the Dawg Bowl, NBA Dawg Bowl champion LOL Hot Dogs on with us tomorrow in the 2 p.m. Eastern time slot. Nez is on Baby Watch High Alert. If you guys want the alpha on NBA for today, we did it half an hour ago. It's pinned in there for the badges only somewhere. And then we're gonna be doing some big board stuff. We're gonna be doing some dinger stuff, and we're gonna be doing hoops for the rest of the week there in some combination of both forward facing and paywall.
Beautiful. For me, I'll have lulls on Thursday, ship chasing on Thursday, and then I'll be getting an After Dark show booked for this weekend. Otherwise, you can check out Swolecast from today with Neil Orfield or Best Ball Breakfast. And otherwise, we will be back here for Off and On the Clock every Tuesday afternoon, hopping around to different sports. And shout out again to Underdog. Awesome weekend at the Dawg Bowl. And make sure you guys tune in tomorrow to meet Lulz, and maybe these guys can pry out some alpha. He was pretty coy with who he gets his projections from. It sounded like there was some kind of market aggregation going on there. So maybe you guys can get some of that alpha out. All right. We'll see you guys next time on Off and On the Clock. Peace.